Spring had sprung in Appalachia, and when Glimmer came to me one evening before sunset, I assumed she had just missed me. I hadn't seen her in a while, and I was beginning to become worried that something had happened to her. It wasn't unusual for her to be gone for a while, but it was rare to go a whole week without seeing her. "Hey," I said, as she looked up guiltily as she came to the porch. I had been sweeping the winter's dust and leaves away, and I was surprised that she hadn't seen me. Something was on her mind, that much was obvious, and I was worried that maybe her distance had something to do with me. Perhaps we weren't as close as I had thought, and this was my visit to let me know.
"Hey, can we take a walk? I need to speak with you."
"Dear John," I said under my breath, and Glimmer turned her head a little in confusion.
"I'm Glimmer, remember? I don't know this John."
I shook my head. "I'm just being a smartass. Let me let Grandpa know I'm stepping out for a while." Grandpa was asleep in his recliner, so I just left him a note on the kitchen table. I made sure I had my leather pouch of sigils and awards, the wooden totem that Grandpa had made me, what he claimed would act as a secondary focus, and grabbed my walking stick, which was my primary focus. I added a coat, it was a little chilly, and went out to find Glimmer leaning against the railing of the porch.
"Expecting trouble?"
"Well, that's the thing about trouble," I said, putting on a passable grandpa voice. "If you always expect it, then it can't creep up on you." She laughed, but cut it off suddenly, as if she remembered something that she'd been trying not to think about. Yeah, this was looking like I want to be friends talk more and more. We stepped into the woods, the sun not yet fully set, and as we passed beneath the trees, it was hard not to feel at ease with the arms of nature around you. I would have never thought I'd be at ease in the woods, not as much as I was, but it appeared that Grandpa had been right when he said that the green sea became like home after a while. The night creatures were just beginning to tune up, the owls coming from their dens, the bats waiting in the hollows of trees and small caves, the crickets and night larks warming up for the coming concert. The lightning bugs wouldn't be back for another month at least, and unfortunately, they would bring the mosquitoes with them. Glimmer seemed to take in none of it. She kept rubbing her arms, her lovely, bare arms that glittered like fresh moonlight, and it made me uneasy. I wasn't used to seeing her like this. Glimmer was always so in control, so sure of herself, and she looked like she might be about to shake apart. I was worried that this might not be a breakup talk, but maybe something else had happened. Death in the family, an ultimatum from her parents. "Glim," I said finally, stopping to look at her. "What's going on? I've never seen you this nervous." She took a few more steps, getting about 8 feet away from me, as if she thought she might have to run.
Well, you've probably noticed that I haven't been to see you in a few weeks."
I nodded slowly, waiting for more.
"Well, in my culture, I am now at the age where one might get married. In fact, I am past the age of betrothal, if we're being honest. In your world, you would say I am in the prime of life, and my people consider me too great an asset to remain unjoyed."
I nodded again, leaning against the tree I had stopped beside, bracing myself for the blow. She worried at her perfect lip, squinting at the setting sun as if trying to blind herself.
"My father has betrothed me to another. I told him I was already betrothed."
I felt my breath stick in my throat. "Oh," I finally said. She rubbed at her shoulders, looking cold and miserable, but not ready to let it conquer her. I understand," I said, trying to soothe some of the obvious hurt. "It isn't like it was really something you wanted. It's just something you have to do. I hope he's a good guy. I hope he knows what a gift he has. I won't make it hard and ask you to stay friends with me. I wish you well, and I hope you're...
I told my father I had already agreed to a marriage proposal.
That took the wind out of me. What?
I told him I could not be betrothed to his choice. I had given my heart away already.
We just stood there, looking at each other, as night cast its cloak across us. As the moon hit Glimmer, she shimmered like a crystal chandelier, and I was suddenly in awe of her beauty. Well, that is something. Anyone I know? I asked, smiling a little.
It is you, fool. I have chosen you to be my mate. You infuriating mainling. I love you, and I want you to be my bone mate.
She stood there after she'd finished, seeming unsure whether I would agree or not. Her lack of assurance was a little flattering. The thought that I would reject the love of this literal goddess was unthinkable. Glimmer was something special, a gem all her own, and I would have been the biggest fool to turn her down. I had gone from fermenting devastation to nurturing a growing feeling of disbelieving joy. I ran to her and wrapped her in my arms, her stiffness melting away as we embraced. She melted against me, and the kiss we shared was more than simple passion. The idea that she wanted me as much as I wanted her was something completely unbelievable to me, and it would take time for the smile to work its way off my face. She laughed as we broke our kiss, putting her hands against my chest as we clung to each other.
By the goddess, I had thought you would be furious with me. I hadn't even asked your intentions, and I feared I would have to return to the camp in shame. I have played this scenario out of my head for days, and never did I think you would want to join with me.
I kissed the top of her head, not having the heart to tell her that it was I who couldn't believe she wanted to join with me. We practically skipped through the forest now, our fingers laced together as the creatures played us a victory march. So, I asked when I finally found my voice, what happens now?
Now you must meet my parents at my camp.
Wow. I don't even think Grandpa's ever been invited to a Moonchild camp.
Moon elves, and I fear I may have led you to expect something humble from the word camp. You will have to be presented before the Court of Moons, my camp's council. My father sits on that council, and I am called First Hunter by my people. That is a title, not a name, and it's something I have earned.
I realized that I might need to know her name if I was going to be amongst her people. So if we're going to be married, it might be best if I knew your actual name. Glimmer looked a little lost for a moment before breaking into very musical laughter.
Forgive me. You and Fisher have called me Glimmer for so long that I've never felt I needed to tell you the name the mood has created to me.
She stopped in the path, taking my hands and looking at me evenly.
To you and your grandfather, I am Glimmer. To my people, my family, and my hunters, I am Larelia of Clan Marsovic.
I promptly spent a few minutes butchering it before she finally nodded and smiled. It's a beautiful name.
That shelters beneath the bows in my language. Marsovic is my clan name, and you will take it once we are wed, since you don't have a clan name amongst my people.
That's not gonna seem weird, is it? I don't want to insult them if it's usually the woman who takes the man's name. I don't mind either way, but I don't want to insult your people. Glimmer shook her head.
Those who come in from outside the camp often take the name of their mate. It would only be within the camp anyway. Out here, I would still be Glimmer if you like.
You'll always be Glimmer to me. I suppose, though, if we're trading names, then you might want mine, too. Glimmer stopped for a moment, laughing again as she put her face in her hands.
Oh my, yes, I suppose I would need to know your name. I cannot introduce you to my family as Hunter.
I nodded. That was certainly true. Marcus. Marcus Carmichael. She looked mystified.
And what does it mean to your people?
Nothing, I guess. Marcus was my grandfather's name, my dad's dad, who died before I was born. He died a week before I was born, and Dad always said that he'd been very excited to meet me. My grandmother had died a few years before, and he was preparing to sell his house and come help my parents with me. Then, very suddenly, he had a heart attack and died. So my dad wanted to name me after him, in his memory. I guess that's what it means to my people. I'm named after him, so I can keep his spirit alive. Glimmer nodded, our path having taken us back to the edge of Grandpa's property. The lights were on, so I supposed that Grandpa had woken up from his nap, and I could smell the chimney from the kitchen pushing up good-smelling smoke. I invited Glimmer in for a bite, but she said that as much as she would like to, she needed to get back and make preparations for our betrothal.
This had weighed on me for some time, and now I can begin preparing my camp for your arrival.
My arrival?
Well, yes. You must meet my parents and my camp and be presented to them. Then we will betroth in ceremony and exchange tokens of affection to seal our commitment to each other.
Oh, okay. What do you need me to bring with me? What sort of token of affection is expected?
It can be anything, just a symbol of our love for others to see.
How long should I pack for?
Oh, 7 nights at the most. I shouldn't think it should take longer than that.
A whole week, I said, my mind racing as I thought over what I would take with me and what I would need to do to prepare to go.
If it is too much to ask, I understand. If you need time to...
No. I'm just trying to think of what I'll need to take with me. I'll need nice clothes, and I'll need to tell Grandpa that I'll be gone for a week so he doesn't worry. Guess my cell phone probably won't work there. Will it? Glimmer shrugged, another gesture she had learned from me, and one that looked very out of place.
I have no idea. We have never had one of your fairy boxes there before. We shall have to see. My mother would probably enjoy the stories about the silly cats that you often show me.
I smiled, the thought of showing YouTube videos to a group of glimmers just seeming very surreal. I'll have to find some good ones and download them, just in case.
Well then, I will see you tomorrow night to lead you there. Until then, my love.
Grandpa smiled as I came through the door a few minutes later, and I imagine my face was probably pretty red. Our goodbyes had been a little more passionate tonight than usual. "Have a good time, lover boy?" he asked, stirring whatever he was cooking. "Yeah, so I guess I'm gonna be gone for a few days. Maybe a week at the most." "Taking Glimmer to Gatlinburg for a little trip?" he asked, laughing at the idea of the sheltered moonchild in a place like that. "No, I'm, going to meet her parents." The spoon fell into the pot. "What?" he asked, half laughing like he thought I was joking. "Oh, it gets better than that. I think I just got engaged." You're still here. Thanks so much for joining us for tonight's spooky tale. If you'd like a little bit more spooky in your life, why not click on one of the videos that appears at the end of our story, or maybe head on over to one of our playlists where you can get your fill of spooky content. If you like your spooky a little more tactile, I've got a new book that's come out. If you'd like your own copy, there's a link below in the description where you can get your own copy of my spooky book. If you like what you see here on the channel and think you might like to support in a more monetized way, then why not come over to Patreon or become a member on YouTube? Speaking of, let's go ahead and thank our members now. Thanks to Civ Garstad, Unicorn Hollow, and Army Dude for being our Spooky Ghost contributors. Thanks to Janet, Lee Kendall, Saikat, Ronda J, Sue Casper, and Valinator for being our Spooky Skeleton contributors. And thanks to Oh Snap, Hi Stacy, Winter, Xaronan, Stephanie Carrington, Tyler Parker, Cinnamon Fox, Grim Reaper, TomBoiTopUwU, and Queen Sheebah for being our Ghostly Reader tier contributors. And a big thanks to Scott Donahue for being our Ghostly Writer tier contributor. Thanks, everyone. We just couldn't do the show without you. If you'd like to support the channel, then come on down to Patreon or become a member on YouTube. Spooky Skeleton tier contributors, that's our $5 tier, get their spooky 12 hours early at 8:30 a.m. as opposed to 8:30 p.m. My time, of course. And while Ghostly Reading is only a tier that's available on Patreon, you get a signed copy of my book anytime I write one on your doorstep in, hopefully, a timely manner. If you'd like a book, we have many on Amazon. I've got links below if you'd like to follow those. Should get you to my page so you can buy any one of my 8 books I believe we're up to now. I'm sure they'd look really nice on your shelf, and I'll sign them for you if you can find me out in the wild. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.